presents School is Now in Session.
Welcome to Homeschooled Podcast.
Homeschool.
The Homeschool Podcast. Why? Because he was homeschooled.
It's time to document the journey.
Welcome back to Homeschool Podcast. I'm Agostino Zoida. I'm the host of Homeschool Podcast. It's great to have you guys back. We know you have a lot of options out there for podcasts, so we really appreciate you. Joining me is our co-host, Kevin Lyons. It's always good to have him here. And,
Hey, buddy.
Our guest today is Melissa St. Hilaire. Nailed it, right? Boom. I'm good at this. Thanks so much for joining us. Melissa, and correct me if I'm wrong, has many titles. Melissa is a medium. Is that the correct thing to call somebody?
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a psychic. Is there a difference between psychic and medium, or is it the same thing and you just happen to do both?
Well, it depends on who you ask, but I like to break it down into two things.
Okay.
Psychic is kind of like an umbrella term for everything. So, if you do tarot readings, if you're a medium, et cetera, you're basically a psychic.
Oh, okay.
And psychic, but if you want to narrow it down even further, you could call psychic telepathy. So it's essentially reading someone else.
Okay.
Living
Is medium kind of like, is it specifically like communicating with the other side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
All right, great. So, listen, this is going to be fun. I really look forward to this, and I've been wanting to have someone on in your craft for some time. So I'm really glad that a mutual friend of ours put us in touch. And listen, it's Halloween week. This is your season.
I know, right? I wish it was more my season. Now the pandemic has really put a damper on seances. It's
Really? Can you not do them? Can you do Zoom seances?
That's a really good question, and I've been thinking about doing one. But here's the thing: I love energy. I love how energy feels, and when you're doing a seance with a room full of people, it's like you're vibing on everybody else's energy, and you kind of get this collective thing going, and maybe it works in Zoom. I don't know.
It could be done, but it's probably would it be more difficult for you to read people? Because I would imagine I would, if I were you, I would be making big bucks on Airbnb experience right now, which is everything online.
Right.
But I don't know if you can I even went and looked on there and see if there was anybody on there. There's no one really doing that on Airbnb. Maybe for that reason that they need to be in the room with them. But I'm excited. We're going to have some fun. Before we get into it, I would like to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by Puffy Mattress, which is America's #1 leading mattress in America. Of all of those, we deliver the mattress in a box to your door type of ads that you see all over the place. They're the best, you guys. I've tried a few, and I settled on them, and I get the best night's sleep. My back pain went away when I wake up. Right now, they're having the sale of the season this fall, which I'm pretty sure ends at the end of October. So not only are you going to get your mattress for a great price, but you're also going to get hooked up because I sent you. Tell them I sent you. We're going to get you $300 off your mattress. All you have to do is click the link in the description, and I'll get you $300 off whichever one you choose. Some people like it firm. Some people like it soft or somewhere in between, and the price varies, of course, by, king, queen, whatever. But, guys, it's a great deal right now. They got a big sale going on. Plus, I'm going to get you $300 and free shipping and a free King Puffy pillow. And not only that, but it's risk-free. You get to sleep on it for 101 nights, and if you're not satisfied, you're guaranteed 100% of your money back, all right? I would also like to remind you guys that my comedy album is available right now everywhere. You can get it on iTunes, you can get it on Amazon. It's called The Bad Guy, and I would really appreciate it if you give it a download, and a 5-star review would be extremely helpful. If you can't find it for some reason because my name is difficult to spell, you can go over to my website, homeschooledpod.com, click on merch, and it'll have the links right there to download my album. And just as a quick reminder, I will be in Philly November 12th through the 14th at the Helium Comedy Club, so you can also get tickets on my website, homeschooledpod.com. All right, you guys, let's get into this, okay? You excited, Kevin?
Yes, I'm very excited. I didn't know people had difficulty spelling your name.
Oh, yeah. Believe it or not.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, it doesn't sound difficult to spell.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's in August, like the month. But, so Melissa, Kevin and I have been friends for probably since I started stand-up, which is 12 years now. And we just stay close friends. He's the co-host of this podcast, but just so you know, he's a big horror fan or anything that, how would you describe it? I don't want to like categorize you either, Melissa, and be like you're a horror person. I'm saying that like this type of stuff is very interesting to me, and I know I think Kevin's favorite holiday is Halloween, and
It is.
besides entertainment, of course he loves movies and stuff, but I know for a fact that like this is just interesting. Like especially to me, I'm mostly fascinated with communicating with the other side. But we'll get into everything, I guess.
Well, I think it's funny that you're saying that it's like because it has to do with horror, especially like talking to ghosts. Because I mean, can you think of any other genre of movies where ghosts are just regularly there, like a romantic comedy? You know, that doesn't happen. It's usually only in horror movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. And horror is totally fine. Oh, that was my ding. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, and horror is totally fine to categorize it as horror. I love horror movies. They
Okay,
were like,
cool.
That was my first love as a child. You know, like I mean, I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was way too young and couldn't sleep for a week. So yeah.
How do you see? Normally we have a lot of comedians, actors on this show a lot, and you know, a common question would be, how did you get into it? How did you start? But for you, I think it's a different question because I don't know if you necessarily find this as much as it finds you. So,
oh my God, totally. In fact, I don't know about other mediums, but me personally, I fought it for most of my life.
Really?
Yeah, because, you know, there's this whole idea of like, you know, there's a whole stigma with it. If you say that you can talk to dead people, people are going to be like, okay, well, she's totally bad. Can I swear on here? I don't know if I can.
of course,
Yeah, you can.
no problem. All is welcome.
But yeah, so there's, you know, there's that idea. And when I was really little, you know, I had some bizarro experiences as a child, and my family would always kind of try to find a way to explain it. Like, oh, she has an active imagination, or she's just very observant. And who knows, maybe that is part of it, you know? But it took me a long time to even call myself a medium or a psychic. Like, I didn't even want to use those terms. You know?
Yeah. I mean, when are you allowed to call yourself that? Because with comedians, we're like, you can't call yourself a comedian if you just go to open mics. You know what I mean? For comedians, it's like, are you being paid, to work? And
yeah, and that's kind of why I didn't start calling myself a medium until I started to make money doing it. Because for years, I mean, literally since I was 12 years old, I've been doing readings for my friends. And I never considered it as something serious. It was just like a thing that I could do. And I was scarily accurate. And I didn't even think it had anything to do with me. And even now today, I don't even really know if it has anything to do with me. It's almost like I'm just a vehicle for messages and it's not about me at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So would you say that this started around 12 years old? Is that what you said?
Well, that's when I started to do it. So that's when I first got my very first tarot deck. And I was like super into it. So I was like, oh, let me read you. And I would like run around and just give everybody readings. But I still wouldn't have really called myself, you know.
Yeah.
like,
I mean, you're just like kind of half having fun at the same time, right?
Totally. Yeah. It was just like a thing to do. I grew up in Massachusetts.
I grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh, nice. What part?
Norwood, Massachusetts.
God, I have no idea. I grew up in Mendon and Upton, Massachusetts.
Oh, Mendon. I used to go to the Mendon Drive-In all the time. I love the Mendon Drive-In.
That place is great.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're in Massachusetts, like you get the Salem witch trials and all
Sure.
that stuff, like just bashed over your head constantly, and like, you know, and then also.
Well, that part of the country too is really old. You know, that's where civilization. I mean, you know, modern civilization started there, and there's a lot of old. Like the house I grew up in is over 100 years old.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? So.
No wonder you like horror movies. You probably.
I love horror movies. I do. It's fun. It's weird. It's a weird comfort for me.
Yeah, same. It's like that's how it is for me too. And it's funny because if you had told me, and when I was a little girl, if you had said you're gonna grow up and you're gonna be a professional medium, I would have been like, you're totally insane. Like that's not happening. But like, you know, but because I had all those experiences growing up in Massachusetts, and because of that history, and because of like everywhere you'd go, I mean, there's all these like weird, creepy little cemeteries everywhere in Massachusetts. And you want, and be a thing. Like, that's what you would do on like a weekend as a high schooler. You'd go hang out in the creepy cemetery,
I
Right.
live literally across the street from a cemetery.
Right. So
The house I grew up in, so
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So
And
were
what's
you?
the-
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, did you you first experience that you had the ability to like kind of read people first, or was it that you could communicate with the other side?
Oh wow, it was actually that I could communicate with the other side.
That was
And
first.
that was first. And what's really freaky is it happened when I was like around 3 years old, which is kind of like when my first memories are, like I don't really remember much before 3. And my grandfather died when I was 3, and I don't think I even understood like what death was. I don't think I understood the difference between life and death at that age, and
Sure.
and when he died, I remember very vaguely, like a dream, walking into my grandmother in her bedroom crying, and saying to her, like, Grammy, what's wrong? And her saying, oh, I'm upset because your grandfather is gone. And I pointed to a chair in the corner and I was like, no, he's not. He's right over there. And
Wow.
it's like, it didn't even click to me that there was a difference between the living and the dead at that age. And then I know that she asked me, I don't remember a lot of the exchange, but I know she asked me some questions. I think she was probably testing to see if it was my imagination or not, but I don't remember the specifics of it now. But after that, whatever I said to her, she stopped crying. From my knowledge, she never cried over him again. She never dated again. And in fact, if people said to her, well, why don't you date Vera? She'd be like, well, I'm still married. And they'd be like, well, he's gone. And she'd be like, no, he's not.
Hmm. You don't really remember, but do you think that you think you saw him?
Yeah, yeah. And I was told the story, but then I was also told to not tell people that I could do that.
Right. I mean, was
You
that,
know?
that was the first time? It didn't happen again after that. When was the next time it happened after that?
Gosh, I want to say it was a couple years later. I want to say I'm closer to 5 that I can remember. I mean, it could have happened sooner, but I don't really remember it. But when I was 5, I started to have an horrible insomnia, and because when I would lie in bed at night to go to sleep, I would literally see like a ring of faces staring down at me, trying to communicate with me, and I didn't understand what they were, what they wanted, what was even happening. I just couldn't sleep. I had horrible nightmares. Like, it was the whole thing.
And you were super young.
Yeah, super young.
And did you at any point go out and tell your parents, and they were just like, you're just having a bad dream?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it was all bad dreams. And in fact, like when I was even a little bit older, I want to say, gosh, like a teenager, I actually went to a neurologist to have my brain studied because I thought that there was something maybe wrong with my brain. Like am I hallucinating? Is there a tumor in there, or is there some misfiring, or something like that? And they gave me like the stamp of approval, like, oh, you're fine, we don't know what it is, you just have an active imagination.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad that how it always gets brushed off as a active, just an active imagination. Now, when you said that when you were laying down in bed as a child, you could see like a ring of faces, but do you still experience that, or is it come differently now?
Thankfully it comes a little differently now. It was almost like they were trying to get me to pay attention to them then, and now they kind of know that I pay attention, and now I'm just kind of like, stop. Like they'll pop up in different, like, I'm driving now, I can't deal with your nonsense, like, go away.
Do you think it, or do you say it?
I say it sometimes. If I'm alone, I say it. If I'm like out in public, I don't.
Because you said when you saw your grandfather that night in your grandmother's room, you said, I'm like, because he looks so real. what about now? Like, can you tell the difference right away? No, you can't. So,
It's,
like, you're ever out in public and see somebody, and then you just think you're a typical person, and then next thing you know, it's a ghost.
sometimes it's nowhere near as often as when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was literally like I couldn't tell the difference. Now I can most of the time I can tell the difference. In fact, most of the time now they don't appear to me that way anymore. And I don't know if it's just because I've have like filters that I've added to my brain so I can't see them as well anymore.
So over the years, you learned how to control it.
Right, exactly. Well, I had to suppress it for a lot of my youth. I just like, also, I should have mentioned this too. When I was really little, I want to say, again, around like 5, 6 or something like that, I had a doctor made me have a psych evaluation to text, and they checked my like emotional IQ and my regular IQ and all that stuff. And they were like, oh, yeah, she's totally fine. She's smart. Everything is,
Yeah.
it's like my whole life I've had people test me and try to figure out what's wrong with me, and it's like, well, I don't know if anything is wrong with me. But I think because of that stuff early on, I feel like there's a part of my brain that kind of just said, you have to suppress this, you have to push this away if you want to be able to like function in the real world and like be a person.
Yeah. I think that, but what the hell do I know? But I personally think that sometimes that I don't know what you want to call them, the unliving, okay? I think that sometimes they get so desperate that when they do see that someone does have the ability to communicate with them, they all kind of want to attack you. So from like a young age, you noticed your grandfather, which I think a lot of younger kids, not all of them, but there's some that they do kind of see things, and for who knows for what reason when you're young, that maybe it is your imagination, maybe it's just that you're vulnerable, but I think that when they saw that you had the ability to see and you didn't even know the difference between him being alive or being dead, you just saw it as like real natural, that I think that they all started to swarm to you. Like, we have an opportunity here. And that's what I personally think. Do you think that most of the time, I mean, considering when you were younger and then now you're more experienced with it, do you think that these are all mostly people who have died, they just didn't go to the next place yet? Or
Not all. It really depends. There are sometimes I have experiences with entities that feel as though they haven't embraced the event of death and transcended, and in certain communities and circles they call those shades, because they're sort of like neither here nor there. But I haven't really had good communication with shades because there's a sense of not knowing that they're dead. And so that becomes tricky with communication because it's like they're not really present, for lack of a better way to describe it, Whereas if someone has passed on and crossed over and gone through the whole thing, they know they're dead.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking it.
The conversations are different.
Exactly.
They're like, tell
like,
this person I said, as opposed to the people that don't know they're dead. They're just like,
exactly. Right.
So what do you want to talk about?
Right. Because usually ones who want to communicate are ones who are like, okay, I totally know I'm dead, but I didn't make peace with this particular living person. So let me go find someone that I can communicate with so I can pass on this message.
Man, I feel so bad now for the ones that don't know that they're dead. Imagine just like living hundreds of years and they're just going like, something's off. So when they see someone who actually talks to them, they're just like, oh, finally someone talks to me.
It's super sad. And you get like, whenever I experience a shade, I always get overcome with like just incredible depression and sadness and stuff like that, like to the point where it feels like there's a heavy pressure on me. So yeah, it's hard, but the cool thing is seances can be used to help shades transition. So like, I know a lot of people who throw seances just for fun and it's just entertainment value, but behind the entertainment there's an actual real purpose in seances.
Sure.
And that's because you're calling in all of the spirits. You're basically saying any spirit that is around here. Well, if you want to, there are other ways to do it too, but you can call in all the spirits. And like, let's say, you happen to attract a handful of shades at the end of your seance. You can do like a little ritual where you kind of, send them on their way, and that makes it, less just about entertaining your friends and
More about helping out somebody who's been stuck here for like 200 years.
Right.
Can I get
Exactly.
going? That's really interesting. But so you said shades are people that having trouble transitioning, like people who don't necessarily know that they're dead. And when you do seances, you kind of call out all these spirits. Sometimes you get shades, but do you ever get not so nice things come by and say hi?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You can get some weird stuff that happens sometimes.
Because that's what freaks me out. Like ghosts, like I can deal with that. If a ghost just came in and I probably wouldn't even jump. I'd probably be like, "Hey, what's up?" But anything else, like that's not human, would that's when I start to shake.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And you can feel it because it feels different.
Really?
If something comes in that's like an elemental or some sort of nature spirit, or I don't even want to give labels, but some might call them demons or whatever. Um, it's kind of like a different feeling where it's like there's a primitive fear response that kind of happens in body, like that's where your what's the word, hackles are raised or whatever that word is. Like you get that feeling where it's like, okay,
Goosebumps, hairs.
right, yeah, because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is not my friendly grandma who passed away and just wants to say hi. This is like a potentially negative entity that might want to possess me and use my body or some crazy thing like that. Which is why when I do seances nowadays, I should premise, I do this very specifically when I have people around me that aren't like psychics. If it's just a bunch of psychics doing a seance, we're like, whatever. But if you've got like regular people, it's really good to do like elaborate protection rituals to do your best to protect everybody from like spirits like that.
How do you do that?
Oh gosh, there's so many different ways. I usually will smoke cleanse the whole place, use a lavender, not sage. And I will also like call on the archangels and create basically like a big giant protective bubble around us.
What's the difference between lavender and sage? Just because I have no idea. You said you burn lavender, not sage, and I've always heard people burning sage. So
Well, sage is sort of like a spirit Clorox wipe. Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it just wipes everything out. So if you sage the whole room and have a seance, it'd be like the most boring seance you've ever
Oh,
had.
you're getting rid of all of the spirits.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas lavender has this weird sort of quality to it that it actually sort of attracts the spirits in a strange way. I honestly can't tell you why. I don't know why it works. It just sort of like I stumbled on it by accident when I was looking for a sage alternative, and I was like, well, let me try lavender and see what happens. And it was like the best seance I ever had. So I
Wow.
just used
But
it
but
ever
lavender kind of gets rid of the evil or the demons, but
Right.
still
And it
allows.
smells nice.
It does smell nice. Every asshole I ever met didn't like lavender, so
Exactly.
that's my new test. By the way, when you meet people, do you like lavender? If they go not really, I'm gonna be like, I'm out of here.
Right.
Oh man, this is so interesting. I have like so many questions all at once, but okay. So let me tell you that I told this story maybe a couple months ago on this podcast because like once a year we have these comedian friends of ours on who have a podcast called True Scary Stories, where they just read stories that most of the time listeners sent in, like their experience with a spirit or a demon. And I was telling them this story, and it was about like a couple months ago. I went to Oregon to visit a cousin of mine, and she was telling me that she went to go see a medium. And you should know that my cousin is very involved and has even taken a few classes to try to maybe understand it better. And she even gave me, like, I don't even know what it is. You probably do. It's like this little wood that she said that if you do it in like a counterclockwise, you're closing a portal, or vice versa, you're opening a portal. Does this sound familiar to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that, but
Okay. So anyway, she's just like really into that stuff, and she goes to do a visit with a medium, and she said that there's, it's like a large group of people that went to go see it, I guess for fun. And when the woman walked in, who was the medium, she said that, like, okay, as soon as she walked in, she was like, okay, like, I don't know who has a relative in here that it looks like this, but she was like, this woman has been bothering me all day because she knew I was going to be here today. And she's like a nice woman, but she's like harassing me to make sure that I say this and make sure I say that. And she like specifically described what my grandmother looked like, who is my cousin's aunt, who's really close with her mom. And I mean, they described like everything, you know, like the way she acted, what she was wearing. And also that day that I went to go visit my cousin, I flew to Oregon. The day that I landed there, we were just talking about it, and she told me that she had a dream that morning because I was coming. And she said that she had a dream that my grandmother and her mom visited her, and they were just super happy that we were all going to be together again. You know what I mean? That their kids were coming together. So we were like, later before I left, I was there for like a week. And then before I left, I went back to her house, and we were looking through old photographs that I've never seen before. And there was this photograph of like all of our family, including grandmothers and grandparents and everything all together. And then we looked on the back of it, and we're like, say, hey, when was this taken? People usually write on the back of old photographs. And it was taken like on the exact date that I had flown in when she had the dream, but like 30 years later, which was insane.
That's cool.
Do you ever have any experiences like that when you're on your way to a seance, and is there somebody that's just kind of harassing you? Like, you got to tell this person I said this.
Oh my God, totally. And actually, like, what's kind of interesting, I'm going to share a little bit more of a personal one, because this wasn't so much on my way to a seance, but it might as well have been. So my stepmom passed away a few years ago, and full disclosure, we were not the best of friends, and we get along okay, but you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she passed away, I started to hear her voice every night when I would try to go to sleep at night. And I knew I was going to go visit my dad in a few days because he was, you know, distraught as one would be. And I was going to go to comfort him. And like every night I would be trying to fall asleep, and I could hear her voice like clear. And she was a talker. She was one of those people who, oh my God, she would just talk your ear off morning, noon, and night, you know?
Yeah.
And she had kind of a really like, she was from Connecticut, and she was like, had this type of like loud, very abrasive kind of voice. And so here's me every night trying to fall asleep, and there's her voice, it like, Melissa, like over, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, what is wrong? And like, why is this happening? And this was before I even called myself a medium or anything.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'd still been, you know, having these experiences my whole life, but
How old would you say you were?
this was just a few years ago,
Okay.
5 years ago, something like that. And because I have only been calling myself this for recently.
Okay.
But so she's like talking at me, and I'm like, what? Like, first of all, what is happening? Like, why is she coming to me? Like, of all the people on the planet that she would like, why would she go to her stepdaughter? She should be going to her own children, or to my dad, you know? And so I was super freaked out. And then, but I couldn't really make sense of what she was trying to tell me. It was like I didn't understand she was trying to give me a message from my dad. I didn't realize that's what was happening. But it was every single day for a solid week. Then I flew to see my dad. The second I got off the plane and saw him, he started to cry. Side note, he's a Marine. He never cries. So
Wow.
that was like a big moment for me. So I was like, Dad, let's get to the car like, as quickly as possible. So we sit in the car, and we were like, we were having this sort of moment where he's crying, and I'm like trying to comfort him. And then all of a sudden I was like, Dad, I need to share something with you. And I'm afraid you're going to think I'm crazy, but I have to tell you. It was like I was compelled to tell him.
Yeah.
So I said, you know, Carolyn's been visiting me every night for a week, and she keeps trying to talk at me. I think she has a message to give me to pass on to you. And I'm like, please, I know this sounds crazy, but I can't take it anymore. And I have to I don't know what to do. And he was like, well, just go with it. You know, he was so great. Like, he was like, just go with it and see what happens. So like, what do you think she's trying to say? Well, this was when the weird thing happened. All of a sudden, it was like my consciousness took a back seat. It was like, it was almost like being hypnotized. Because, you know, I don't know if you've ever been hypnotized, but when you're hypnotized, it's not like you black out entirely. You're still awake and aware, but it's like you're over here somewhere. And I know I was talking to my dad. I know that I was sharing whatever Carolyn had told me to pass on to him. I have no memory right now, or even 5 minutes after I said it, what I was saying. And as soon as the end of it sort of left my mouth, I felt like I was waking up. And I looked at my dad and I was like, what just happened? And he was like, he gave me closure. And I was like, but I don't even know what I just said or how long we've been sitting here or anything. And he was like, well, don't worry about it. It wasn't for you. It was for me.
Wow. He didn't want to tell you what it was.
No, because it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And so I was
That's
like,
wow.
isn't that crazy? So I said,
That's so crazy.
I'm like, am I crazy? Like, like, I don't know. Like,
No.
what's happening? You know? And he said, well, if you're crazy, I'm crazy too, because the dead have been talking to me my whole life.
Your dad said that too?
Like, Dad, I was like, what? You know?
Wait, so your dad has it too?
Yeah.
That's so wow.
I know.
But wait.
Oh my gosh, this is like Teen Wolf.
Wait,
You found out that it was him the whole
If he
time.
had it his whole life, yeah, were you kind of closeted about it your whole life and never told him?
I talked to my mom about it. I never really talked to my dad about it. Like, I didn't have, I don't know. It was just one of those weird things where I felt like weird telling my dad was a computer engineer, you know, and he turned his back on the Catholic Church and didn't practice any religion. And I just kind of, I don't know. I just thought he was so sort of sciencey minded that he wouldn't understand like what I was going through, I think, on some level. So for whatever reason, I just shared it with my mom, and she, like I said before, she just kind of said it's your imagination. But so anyway, my dad, he was like, he starts telling me this story about how one time when he was at a cemetery with my stepmom, and they were looking for her father, but she couldn't remember where the grave was. And she went walking off in the wrong direct or in one direction trying to find it. And all of a sudden he heard something. He heard a voice call him, Rob, Rob. And he followed the voice and it led him straight to her father's grave.
Wow.
And he's like, so if you're crazy, I'm crazy, and that's okay. We're in good company.
You know what's funny? And again, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think that you were, like, maybe you were able to have this really unique experience where your stepmother sort of took over for a minute and spoke to your dad, not only because you have the ability, but your dad also has the ability, which normally if it's only you that has the ability, they can just kind of talk to you and say this for me, but your dad is also able to talk to dead people, so she almost kind of used you. So it's almost like you had two people who can connect with the other side. I don't know.
That's so true. Yeah, I hadn't looked at it like that. You're totally right.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just like letting you know how I'm perceiving things.
It's like in Indiana Jones, the second one, when they bring the stones closer together and it glows brighter.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Totally. Well, it's, we joke, but what's kind of funny is like, so I teach a psychic development class at the Green Man in North Hollywood. And I've had my students tell me that the second they walk into the room with me, it's like their abilities get stronger just by being around me. And I'm not saying again that it's all me,
Yeah.
but I just think that it's two people who are gifted in that way. When they get together,
Yeah.
It's like it magnifies each other.
And it's probably all the students together.
Right,
even
totally.
I mean, I totally buy it. I totally buy it.
Do you think that people who are also gifted in this way get the same, like, there are people who could be gifted and not even know it because maybe they don't experience it as
Totally.
strong as other people?
Absolutely. And in fact, I actually have a theory that we're all psychic and we're all mediums. Like, I really truly believe that we all have that ability within us. I believe that we were all born with that ability, because if you look at history, very specifically ancient Egypt as one example, they so profoundly believed in the ability to communicate with the dead that they would write petitions to the dead asking things like, can you help me with my bread recipe? Like, that was that commonplace. They weren't asking for the meaning of life. They were just like, help me, or make her fall in love with me, or you get rid of this jerk who's bothering me. Like,
I mean, I believe that the more that you call something or someone crazy, it actually helps whoever they is, it helps their cause. Like, I can totally understand why they would try to label you or anyone who says anything like that, or even if you say, I believe in other spirits, like, I think they try to label it as crazy so
Right.
that through the decades and hundreds and hundreds of years, we're getting less and less away from it being, like you said, it used to be so common, and now it's so uncommon that you're called crazy if you
Right,
do it.
exactly.
And I
And
don't. Yeah,
that's why I think that it's not really crazy. I think everyone can do this.
I
And I
think the
think that
ultimate goal is to let people know that you do not have the power. They don't want you to know you have the power, or they don't want you to be powerful.
right, right. And because I think also they want to suppress everyone else from being able to have that power. If you tell everybody it's not possible, then people who have the gift aren't even going to try to use it,
Yeah.
you know? And if you make people, like, if you stigmatize people and make everyone out to be crazy because they talk about this stuff, or charlatans, that's the other thing. I don't mind someone saying I'm crazy. That's fine. Whatever. I've been called crazy and weird my whole life, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, now I do. I had problems with it in the past, but I'm getting to a better place with it. But like, the thing that drives me crazy is when people are like, oh, you're a charlatan, oh, you're a scam artist, oh, you're taking advantage of people. And it's like, well, you know, I am the first person to say, I don't really even know what any of this is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't really know what's happening.
Why
I
it's
don't-
you? Why can you? Yeah.
Right. You know, and it's not, and it's also, it's not like, and also I'm a huge skeptic. Like, part of the reason why I had a really hard time ever even calling myself a medium was because I just didn't really even believe that that's what it was. You know, I didn't know what it was. I just thought, like, I can do this thing, and you know, maybe it's a Sherlock Holmesy kind of a thing where I can look at a person and totally cold read them and then somehow piece together what their grandfather would look like and say. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, we don't know, you know, or is it just telepathy? Am I just reading a person's mind, and in that person's mind, the memory of the person who died is so real and so
Wow.
strong,
Yeah.
right? That I can then take on the personality and express something the way that they would.
Right.
Maybe that's all it is. Who freaking really knows what it is?
Well, that one woman who, I told you she met with my cousin, said that she described, a short little Italian lady with black hair up in a bun and, gold hoop earrings, which is something that my grandma would always wear. She described it, but before she met my cousin, she said that that's the woman who was with her all day. So, which is kind of, so with her, it's not that she was reading the memory in the mind. Apparently, there was really spirit.
Well, that's we'll see, and that's what trips me up. You know, every time I try to use my rational, because I know this is going to sound cuckoo bananas because I'm a psychic, but I am a science-minded person. You know what I mean? Like, I get vaccines and stuff like that. So, like, you know, I've tried to rationalize it all the way, but then, like, that experience that you had, I've had ones like that too, where it breaks my brain because it's like, how, I don't know why this even happened. So one time, I'm in Florida visiting my dad, and this woman comes up to me, and she goes, "Are you a witch?" And I was like,
Whoa.
I'm in Florida. Don't they burn witches here? Like, I'm just kidding. I love you, Florida. But you know, I was like, yeah, because I didn't know. I didn't know what she was coming at me for. I didn't know she was going to proselytize me and like tell me Jesus has to save me or something. But
Wait, are you a witch?
yes, I am. So I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, I hear that witches have powers. So do you have a power? And I don't know why I was so like honest to this total stranger in this random moment, but it was like she took me by such surprise. It didn't occur to me to like filter myself. And so I blurred out, I go, yeah, I could talk to the dead. And I didn't even know, like, it just came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. Is there anyone around me right now? And mind you, this is before I'm a professional psychic medium. So I'm like totally put on the spot. And I was like,
I wonder why she thought you were a witch by looking at you.
I know, she just came up and I wasn't even wearing, like, today I got my Witch Please shirt on. A billboard, you know? And so she's like, do you see anyone around me? And I was like, you know, I had this like moment of panic, like, wait, like go through my body. And I just said, like, it doesn't freaking matter if you can or can't. Like, you don't have to prove yourself. Like, get over it. And then in that moment of like letting go, all of a sudden I saw a woman standing directly she just appeared, and it was just a flicker, just the briefest moment, like a shimmer or something. And this woman appeared next to her, and she was completely white from head to toe. And she had long, sort of scraggly hair. She was thin. She was much, much older. And so I start describing her to this woman, and the girl starts bawling her eyes out. And she goes, "That's my aunt. She just passed away. She was an albino."
Whoa.
Now, I thought the shimmer in the white was like, oh, well, ghosts just show up white. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't occur to me that she would be a freaking albino.
Wow.
And then once that girl said that, I was like, oh, she was. And now this woman standing in front of me, she was as tan can be. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way I would have looked at this woman.
Oh, sure. And thought you have a white relative.
Right. Like, it wouldn't have happened. So that was
wow.
It's moments like that where I'm like, I don't know what this is, you know?
Yeah. What makes you a witch? Like, why do you say I'm a witch? What makes you a witch? What's the difference between a medium and a psychic?
Oh, well, okay. So a medium is just a thing that I can do, right?
Okay.
It's like I'm also really good at math. It's just like a random thing
Sure.
like that, right? You know, I'm not a very good long distance runner. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a weird thing that you can do or you can't do. Whereas being a witch is more of like a practice, you know, like a lifestyle, a way of living kind of a thing. You know, for some it's a religion. I don't practice witchcraft from a religious perspective.
Right.
Like, I'm not Wiccan.
But if you like burn lavender or sage or whatever, isn't this considered like some form of witchcraft?
Totally, yeah. You can totally call it witch. I mean, there's a lot more to witchcraft.
Sure.
You can definitely paint.
I mean, I've heard people who aren't witches at all burn sage and stuff too. So I don't think it's like a witch only thing,
Yeah.
Augustino.
I have a lot of friends who burn a lot of stuff.
Right.
Me too.
Even before I called myself a witch. So yeah.
What's something in your lifestyle that you would do that someone who's not a witch wouldn't?
Probably go out and celebrate every full moon and new moon.
That sounds awesome.
We have one on Saturday. We have one on Saturday on Halloween.
Ooh, that's gonna be crazy, huh? A full moon on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do, Melissa, to celebrate the full moon?
Oh gosh, I'm not really sure because it's such a big weekend because we've got Halloween.
Yeah.
I've got my 22nd wedding anniversary. I've
Okay.
got the full moon. So I was talking with a girlfriend, and we were talking about maybe coming up with a special ritual for this particular full moon because it's the second full moon in October. It's also I forget what the other thing, but there's all these different things that are about this full moon that make it like extra and cuckoo.
Okay. So you're married?
Yes.
And does your husband have any special abilities? That sounded weird. I mean, does he share any of the similar? No, not at all.
He's sort of a self-professed atheist, so
Okay.
yeah, he's not.
But what does he
not
think
really-
about all of witchcraft, if you will?
Yeah, well, he thinks it all woo-woo, but the interesting thing about him is that even though he doesn't necessarily practice any of this stuff or really quote-unquote believe in it, he has experienced so many weird things just being around me that he can't denounce. He can't completely say it's not real.
Ah.
And in fact, when we first moved out here in 1998, I think it was, we got this tiny little apartment in Koreatown, and we were on the ground floor, and right outside of our bathroom wall, there was a pool, and then this like weird boarded over area that looked like it had at one time been a hot tub, but was now no longer operational. And I would have these experiences where I would see this like weird blur of it looked like either a very small person or a child wearing red shorts with dark hair and tan skin would walk in through the wall there from the pool area, down the hallway, into the living room, and sit down on the floor next to my husband when he would watch Saturday morning cartoons, which he still does to this day.
So your husband saw him too?
Well, that's the thing. I found out later that he did, and I thought I was the only one seeing him, and I didn't want to say anything. And then finally one day I was like, So, do you see the little boy ghost that comes in here? Or, and he goes, "Oh, you see him too?"
Whoa.
He's like, I thought it
Oh
was
man.
crazy.
Yeah, sometimes I think that you don't have to have some kind of special abilities to see ghosts either. Like, I
Totally.
firmly believe I've seen many in my lifetime, which I think is kind of a rare. But when I was young, I didn't think it was rare because I watch a lot of TV and movies, and you think, people, especially kids, see ghosts all the time, whether it be real or fake. But when I got older and I started to tell people all the time that I had so many paranormal experiences, I found that a lot of people didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to have a question, something about that. I mean, because obviously mediums and people who can speak to the dead, they must receive messages and see this all the time. But then there are instances where there are people who aren't mediums and they see a ghost. And I was like wondering why why does it happen like that? Why can sometimes people who aren't gifted are able to see a ghost or have this, type of shared experience that other people have gone through, That's
Right.
what I thought.
Right. Sorry, my cat just
I heard him.
No.
But yeah, and that's the thing where that's why I truly, to the depth of my being, believe everybody is capable of doing what I do. Um, it may not be to maybe the extreme that I can do it. You know what I mean? Because again, to go back to like talking about like math abilities or like long distance running, all of us can do these things. It's just some of us can't do them as well as other people. So my belief is that everybody has this ability, but not everyone is as good as it as others. So everyone can see a ghost, but maybe not be able to communicate with it or make it happen on purpose.
Yeah. Well, like you said, everybody's got the ability, they just don't know it. And if you don't know it, you're not really. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily something that. Yeah, sure, you can be born with it and you can be gifted with it, but if you don't work at it,
Right.
who knows? Maybe I'm like a brilliant guitar player. I've happened to never pick up a guitar. You know what I mean? Maybe I am born with the talent. I just don't. I just never have, explored that avenue. It's funny because to just while we're on the topic of like maybe everybody has some sort of ability that they just don't know. When you were describing the story with your stepmom, where you said that she kind of took over and you were not like passed out, but you were like there, you were kind of watching from afar. When you were describing that, it just reminded me of a place I've been so many times in my life, because as a stand-up comedian, we always use that you describe like what it feels like to have a horrible performance, like to bomb on stage. And the way that I would always describe it to people is to be like, you literally feel like you're not even in your body on stage. You feel like you're looking out the window, or maybe even like in a seat up in the audience, like, or something from up high or out from a window, and you look like you're looking in on you performing. And then when you realize that you're doing that, you are like, that's when you know, I must be doing bad, and if I have the time to stop and think about all of this, then I need to like get my shit together and get back in this game. And I've done that before. I've been having a horrible set. It feels like you're watching yourself through a window, and then when you realize what you're doing, I've come back from it. Like I've just been like, stop, come back to your body and do it.
It's like disassociating, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, and it's like, it's like, some people call it out of body, experience, and that's totally what it is, because it's like there's a part of you that just goes whoosh out of your body.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that that would happen on stage. Absolutely.
That's exactly what it feels like when I get my ocular migraines. I get blind spots, and I don't even have big headaches, but I feel like I am sitting like 10 feet back from my eyes. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. It always happens to me. This is totally random, but it always happens to me at the dentist. Like I'll go to be in the dentist, like whatever, getting a root canal or something. And I like zoom out of my body. And
that's a good place to be.
Myself. I know. And I'm always brought back in because my dentist will be like, "How you doing? You okay in there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, I was just away."
Wait, are you talking about remote viewing? Are you able to do that?
I am able to do that, yeah, which is basically having an out-of-body experience. It's basically
Yes.
the same thing, except for one is uncontrollable and one is controllable. But
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't know
Whoa.
you could do that. That's crazy. What's the farthest you've gone outside your body when you've done that?
Gosh, I know that one time I did it when I was in Boston, and I went all the way to Ireland.
Get out of here! Are you serious?
Yeah.
You were able to go there? Oh my God, that's crazy.
What did you see in
So
Ireland?
you save so much money on travel.
I know. All I did was go to a cliff, and I looked over the side of the cliff, and I could see like the waves pounding, and I kind of, sort of, a little bit did it on accident. I wanted to go to Ireland so bad, and I was just thinking about it, and I remember sort of like lying there, and I was trying to imagine so hard, like what would it be like to be there? How would it smell, and how would it feel, and all this stuff. And the next thing I knew, I was sort of like it was like I was asleep and awake at the same time, and it was like I was there but not there, and I could smell like this fresh salty air, and I could feel like the wind on my face. I could feel the ground beneath my feet, and I could feel like that sense when you're standing on a high cliff and you're looking over, and then all of a sudden I jumped over the cliff and like flew down like towards the water and then over the water, and I was like, and then I snapped out of it because I was afraid I was going to die.
Sure.
Have you ever been to Ireland?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was gonna. Was it a when you were remote viewing? Was it a location that you had been to before?
Oh no, because I did this before I went there.
Oh, okay. When you went there, did you find that locate? Were you able to find it?
I did. I found
No,
it.
get out of here! Really? That's cool. That's really cool.
Did you take a picture of the cliff?
I did, and it was so long ago though. I don't even know where those pictures are now. This was like 1993.
Oh, that's pretty cool though.
So that's cool. That's really rad.
So we got to wrap up here. Let's end it with if there's any story maybe a short story that just sticks out, whether maybe you were in the middle of a seance or you were doing a psychic reading. What kind of sticks out where, I mean, not with you, maybe someone who you were doing it with, that like, is there any crazy story or even creepy or scary
or crazy messages that you had to give and you were like, I can't believe that happened?
Oh gosh. I had to give one crazy message to a friend. I had to tell him that his girlfriend was cheating on him and had given him an STD.
What did she give him?
Who told him this?
I had to I was in the middle of giving him a reading, and it came to me, and I told him during the reading, and this was in college, this was like a long time ago, and he got super mad at me, and he was like, who are you to tell me my girlfriend would never do that? And I was like, I just started crying, and I was like, I'm never giving another reading again for the rest of my life. And then like a month or something later, he was a friend too, and he stopped talking to me after that.
Wow.
And like a month later, I ran into him randomly on Newbury Street in Boston, and I saw him coming like towards me, and I was like, I froze because I was like, should I run and hide? Does he still hate me because of that one horrible reading? And he walked up to me and he was like, Melissa, I have to apologize. What you said was totally true. I found out. He's like, I went to the doctor. I had an STD. That's how I found out. And I confronted her, and she confessed to everything.
Oh man.
And you were right the whole time, and blah blah blah. And
I wonder who wanted to tell him that, or who would know that he had an STD.
I don't know. To this day, I don't know who it was.
Trippy. So I know you started a podcast. What is it going to be about? Are you going to talk about stories like this, or
all this stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
So my goal is to kind of share witch tips and stuff that I've learned over the years to help new practitioners not make all the mistakes that I made.
Okay.
I'm also going to share all this psychic and mediumship stuff, and I want to talk. I'll talk about all the paranormal experiences I've had and ghost hunting and things like that. And the podcast is called The Circle Cast, and we're on Spotify and iTunes and SoundCloud.
So it's out already.
Yes. Yeah. The first episode is out. Yeah.
Perfect. The Circle Cast, guys, check it out. And thank you so much, Melissa, for coming on and giving us your time. I think it's so interesting, and I would definitely listen to your podcast because this stuff just fascinates me. And
me too, man.
congratulations on your anniversary. I hope you guys have a great, fun week, and happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Be safe out there under the moon, whatever you're doing under there. And that's it. So I'm just going to close up and do the exit loot here with Kevin. So you can go ahead and sign off if you want. It was very nice to meet you. And thank you so much for volunteering your time and doing the homeschool podcast. It was great to have you.
Thank you for sharing with us, Melissa. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was fun, dude.
Yeah, that's cool. She was nice.
That was the first time that we ever did anything like that on this podcast. I mean, we had the true
Dude,
scary stories and...
We should figure out how much she charges for a seance and actually do a seance podcast sometime.
I would actually really like to do that. I've always wanted to have a seance or try to communicate with the medium and see if there's anybody out there that wants to try to talk to us, So she's saying that she needs to be in person.
Yes.
But maybe
of course.
we'll hire her, dude. Maybe we'll hire her and we'll do it in the garage here, or we'll just film the whole thing. I'm down for that. And what's that?
I said, hell yeah, as long as she doesn't bring any of those freaky elemental demons coming out. That would freak the shit out of me. I would immediately leave.
Yeah, I don't want any of that stuff, man. I just want I just want to talk to some dead people.
Yeah, no. If we're just like, oh, I wonder if my grandma's going to be here. If my grandfather's all of a sudden it just starts smelling like rotten eggs and she goes, it's here. I fucking run so fast. I would run so fast.
Well, let's do it, man. Maybe when we get going, like a nice little setup, get lights of cameras and mics and good lighting and stuff, we'll actually do an in-person one, And
I also think it would be cool because we're recording. If we were recording anyway, we might pick up some EVPs.
Oof. Let's do it, dude, in the near future. Sooner, not later. I'm down, man. This was a lot of fun. Guys, I just wanted to... Listen, it's Halloween week. I apologize last week. I only did one episode. I normally release 2 episodes a week, but you know what? Sometimes you overstay your welcome. You know what I'm saying? I honestly was like, a guest backed out. I could have done one by myself just to make sure I meet my quota, but I was like, why am I going to force a podcast? I didn't have anything in particular, so I just go, hey, you know what, man, let's just do one this week. And listen, this week it's Halloween week, and I got another one for you guys coming out soon, but we just wanted to do this for Halloween, and I know there's a lot of people out there who find this interesting and believe in stuff, or maybe have some relatives that have lots of loved ones that have passed on, and you think that you've seen them or communicate with them. This whole thing is just fascinating, so I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. Check out our podcast, The Circle Cast, and hopefully you enjoyed it, so that when we have the live seance, you guys will come check that one out too. Be safe out there this Halloween. You know what, you guys? Do some freaking trick-or-treating. Stop being little pussies about it. Dude, everybody in my neighbor app is all like, we're skipping it this year. We're gonna turn off our lights and lock our door and not answer people with trick-or-treating. It's like, man, these are the same people that pass judgment on me in my neighborhood when they see me not wearing a mask. It's like, if you guys swear that the masks work so much, then why can't you trick-or-treat? Like, there's ways to do it. You're taking away someone's childhood, just fuck. It's not even about candy. Give away little hand sanitizers. Just make it work. Use your brain, American ingenuity, and make it work. One guy in my app, he's like a big Halloween guy. He decorates his house. He goes, I made a really long tube. I'm going to stick the tube and shoot some candy down into some kids' bags. He goes, the kids are going to love it. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's a fucking great idea. That sounds fun for kids, just get creative. You guys don't have creativity in your brain. We're scared of COVID and we're really worried our kids are going to die. Who do you know who's died from COVID? Huh?
I'm going to buy a giant bag of candy, and I'm going to run around dressed like a Michael Myers and just throw candy at children.
You should, man. Just get creative. Have fun with it, and there's ways around it. For God's sakes, you can tape saran wrap on your front door and poke a little hole and give candy out. It's just, come on, you guys. We're worried for our children's lives. Get the fuck out of here. Cam Newton had it, and he's back playing football 2 games later. President of the United States has it, and I didn't see them getting ready to swear in Mike Pence just in case he dies. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Let your kids go trick-or-treating. Put a mask on. You guys swear the masks work. The masks work. Wear a mask. You'll save a life. Well, then why can't you kids go trick-or-treating? Why can't you wear a mask, open a door, wear some gloves, drop some fucking candy in their bag, or shoot it through a tube? Be creative. For God's sake. Stop being a little faggot your whole life. All right, you guys. That's a good way to end. That's a good way to end this
Just
podcast.
so everybody knows, I don't appreciate that word.
Just so you know, gay people are not faggots. Faggots is reserved for straight people who act like pussies. All right? That's what the word faggot is for. I would never call a gay person a faggot. All right? It is for straight people who...
We're getting into Michael Scott territory.
No, dude. Like, if you are attracted to men, I love you. I have a lot of gay friends and family. I ain't mad at you. If you are a straight dude who goes to a feminist rally, you're a faggot. Okay? Like, that's what it is. All right. And if you don't let your kids go trick-or-treat... All right, I'm just kidding. We'll wrap this up. Thanks for joining, Kevin. I'm glad you were able to jump on. And that's it. We'll see you guys soon. I want to thank Melissa St. Hilaire. I don't know, I almost blanked her name. And I want to thank all of you guys for tuning into the podcast. I hope you had a great time. Be safe. Have a great, happy Halloween. And we'll see you soon. Homeschool Podcast.
Homeschool.
The homeschool podcast. Why? Because he was homeschooled.
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I don't want to do that at all.